Welcome back to your favorite footy podcast on the internet. I'm one of your hosts, Cheyenne Karimi, alongside my good friend and co-host, Ruben Dario Chavez, aka Ray Chavo. It's Halloween, guys. On the time of recording, it's October 31st. You know, get all your costumes out. It's time to go trick-or-treating. It's time to party. Ruben, how are you feeling? And are you big on Halloween?
I love Halloween. I'm not wearing a costume right now because, unfortunately, I wanted to dress up as one of the organizers of the Ballon Do'r because they're the biggest clowns out there. But my costume didn't come in time. But no, I do love Halloween. I think there are a lot of holidays that as you get older, it's not even that they lose their magic, but they just become a lot more stressful, and it's more like you're on the logistics side of it. Like
You're on a meeting with a committee.
Honestly, because like Christmas becomes like, well, I gotta the older you get, the more gifts you need to get for more people. Like when you're a kid, you don't even really need to get your parents gifts. They just get it in your name for the person. But then like when you have relationships or you make good friends or you're in Secret Santa or like more of your extended family, like it's like you have more obligations on those days than if you were just a kid. But Halloween is one of the few ones where it's like it's become such a drinking young person holiday that like, and even an adult holiday, like adults have like their little Christmas parties at people's houses. So it's fun. I like it. And I like dressing up as something. It's like the one day where people can just like kind of be like a little nerdy and fun. So I really like it. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. No, I do like Halloween a lot. This year, me and my girlfriend, we didn't like really have time to dress up because of work and other things, but we made like, you know, some like Halloween cookies last night, and we watched Sinister. I've never seen that. I'm really big on scary movies. Yeah, it was good. Like I don't like the gore fest ones. Like I'll watch it. Like she wanted to watch like Terrifier, and I was like, yeah, we're not watching that. Like absolutely not. Like for those who don't know, apparently it's just an absolute like unhinged gore fest when like little kids are getting chopped up. So don't watch Terrifier, any of them, especially the third one, because that one's apparently the craziest. But if you like you know like thriller kind of ones, like you know like the Conjuring type, like that, this was really good, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So that was definitely a lot of fun. But yeah, I think both of us, we forgot to get our clown costumes from the committee of the Ballon d'Or. But I already think that awards is just an absolute joke and just a popularity contest. But we'll get over to that if we have time today. Just quickly, we're sorry about the hiatus. You know, we've both been busy with just our jobs and work in a little bit, but we're gonna be as consistent as we can be and just get back onto things. There's lots of things to talk about. You know, Ballon d'Or, just like we mentioned, Ten Hag got fired. We told you he's not making it till October. Everybody called me I'm too rash. Guess what happened?
It was West Ham United that put the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, shout out to West Ham. But yeah, there's a lot of things that we have to talk about. And for today's episode, we're going to do a deep dive, just like we mentioned before in our last deep dive. If there's any big games, big Champions League clashes or just big rivalry matches, we're going to do a deep dive and analysis into that. And this one, unfortunately, hit hard and hit close to home. We're going into El Clasico this past weekend, where Real Madrid got absolutely trounced in, honestly, what I thought was an embarrassing performance and one of the worst performances I've seen in quite a while. 4-0. It was tough to watch. We have a lot to say, so, just sit back, relax, and we hope you enjoy our thoughts. Ruben, I know you have a lot of things to talk about, so I'll give you the floor. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that we didn't do a preview one for that, because I would have been talking real spicy and I would have been made to look like a fool ultimately. Credit where it's due. Barcelona took their chances, and yeah, I think you nailed it. I mean, if you go through the game, in the first half, Madrid converted some that were offside and then kind of were wasteful with some other chances, and that kind of became the story of the game. The fact that Hansi Flick got away with playing such a high line without Ter Stegen and without Araujo and some of their better defenders, it just goes to show just the missed opportunities that were left there. And maybe people who do watch this or anybody who hears me say my opinion will be like, well, you're just biased, you don't like Barcelona, so you're not going to give them credit. No, I give them credit. Look, ultimately, I've been here. I've said, not just on this podcast, but when people ask me about results and stuff, I'm not going to sit here and try to explain to you why I think Madrid was the better team, because I don't think ultimately that matters. despite the chances that they carved out, the opportunities, they didn't take advantage of them. And a part of being the better team is taking advantage of those opportunities. Like, you can be the better team all you want and create those chances, but if you don't have the clinical finish, if you don't know how to take advantage of them, then you're not really the better team, because better teams win games. Like, that's what it is. But I'm also not going to sit here and pretend like Barcelona are suddenly a better team than Real Madrid, because I don't believe that either. I think they were fortunate that Mbappe, like, I guess it depends on what we want to start with, but like, for me, that's the first thing that I go to, and I've tried to be super rational about it and super calm, and I think even like in conversation with me and you have, Cheyenne, you've been a bit more like, we've got Mbappe from Wish, or like fucking Timu Mbappe. Yeah. And I've been like, and like, when he scored like against one of the teams in the Champions League, or when he scored his first goal in La Liga, I was like, you know what? This will be the beginning. Like, that was a good performance. He got some, but over and over again, and watching it, I was like, why is he so eager to start his run? Like, he's faster than everyone on the back line. Like, and he's shown historically to be a master. Like, one of the things I've always respected about is how he flattens his run and waits for the pass and then just uses his speed. Like, that's his whole thing. Like, he's very intelligent in a way that Vinicius could stand to learn from, because Vinicius, because he's so fast, he kind of just overruns sometimes, and he doesn't always flatten the run. He just runs straight. And Mbappe was a master of, like, it looks like he's like going to be offside, but then he flattens the run to stay in line, and then when the pass comes, he bursts forward, right? Like, he was really good at that. And over again. And again, man, like, he was offside like 7 times.
Like, in like 35 minutes. Oh my God.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And it's insane that against an opponent who, and if you look at the stats, like, they're the team that wins the most offsides, I guess if you want to say it, with their trap. And the second place team is like a good distance below them. So this is their strategy. So if you know that, and like, as Carlo may be a talking point here as well, obviously, but as whatever you think of Carlo Ancelotti, whether you're down on him, whether you don't think it's his fault, whether you think he should shoulder all the blame, ultimately, you know that this was a point of talking in the lead up to this. Like, they play an offside trap. We're going to use our speed. Like, that was the plan. So Mbappe really let himself down. And, I respected when he didn't go to France on international duty, because he said he wanted to train more and get more fit, because he hadn't done his job yet at Real Madrid. A lot of people are comparing him to Hazard. I will say, like, he came in to the year as fit as he could be, considering the injuries that he's had, and he's tried. But unfortunately, Real Madrid isn't a club, and this may connect to things that I say later, but it's not a club where, like, effort is the only thing. Like, effort can only get you so far. Like, we love Valverde because of the effort, but we love the results that he gets because of his effort. You can try all you want. Like, there have been plenty of players that I think tried really, really hard and just weren't up to the level. Odegaard was one of those players, whether you think he deserved to be there or stay there, he couldn't play the way that Madrid wanted him. And I don't think it was for lack of trying. It's just that's not how he plays. Ozil, there's a reason he got moved on. Like, all these things, right? So, yeah, it's a disappointing performance from Mbappe, and one ultimately that makes you wonder, like, what's next for him, and like, how does he get back from this? Because I think the clearest contrast is Jude had 2 El Clasicos last year, and in both of them he scored decisive goals that turned the tide or won the game. And Mbappe had his first El Clasico, and he did something that was decisive, but for the other team, which is like squander every opportunity he got. So, as unfair as that may be to some people, those are the margins we're talking about. Yeah. And I'm saying this a lot more calm than I was the day of.
I'm gonna put up the group chat, the chat we had with him. Ruben was fuming, guys. Like, this, I am done. I have had enough.
Honestly, like,
he was fuming. I mean, it's a knee-jerk reaction. Which is understandable.
And to a certain point, it's like, right now, honestly, if you told me, like, hey, you can reverse the Mbappe transfer, and we could bring in Jonathan David, like, for 20 million, I'll do that. Like, honestly, I really would, because at least it's a reference point. Like, Jonathan David
He's
scored
scoring goals,
and he scored goals in Europe. He beat Atletico Madrid. Like that's a striker that's taking his opportunities, and that's what I want ultimately. Like I've seen a lot of people use that meme where it's like the Scooby Doo when Fred pulls off the mask, and it's like Mbappe pull up the mask, and it's Alvaro Morata. We just got the French Morata. Like that's. But yeah, you go.
No one's safe. No one is safe. Poor Morata in Milan is getting cooked.
Fuck Morata. He's doing this bullshit too.
Yeah, oh my god. Yeah, there's a lot to say, Ruben. I'm surprised actually how calm you are, but it's been a few days. Both of us have calmed down a bit. We were definitely very heated after the match ended, but no one's safe. Honestly, for me, nobody is safe after that performance. And I said it earlier, it was one of the most embarrassing El Clasicos I've seen. And I'm going to make a bit of a niche like example, but there was a Joe Rogan podcast and Joey Diaz and Brendan Schaub and all the guys are on it and talking about a UFC card. And this was when like Brock Lesnar was in the UFC. This was a few years ago and he fought Mark Hunt. And if you know anything about Brock Lesnar, he's always on roided up. And if not roids, he's on like rocket fuel. So like to quote Joey Diaz, he's taking shit that makes your head grow. So he was like, that was the most embarrassing thing the UFC has done. And honestly, that was one of the most embarrassing things that I've seen Real Madrid do against Barcelona. I told this to Ruben after the game. There are certain like El Clasicos that I personally go into, and based off of form and based off how the players are playing, I kind of just have this gut feeling of how the game's going to go. And I'm not saying this to play like, Monday morning quarterback and be like, oh, I know everything and I'm right. It's just like based off of how Real Madrid was playing, and we really didn't have a consistent style and a consistent like way of playing, which I really think is the underlying issue of this performance. And the fact that kind of Barcelona had found their system under Hansi Flick and the high line was working and Rafinha was playing really well and Lamine Yamal and et cetera, et cetera. Honestly, deep down, I felt like the result was probably going to go Real Madrid's way. I mean, Barcelona's way, sorry. I didn't think it was going to be 4-0. I thought it would be a closer match, like a 2-1, something like that. But I obviously always believe in Real Madrid, and I believe that something can be pulled off because we always have the star talent and the individual quality to do it. And the first half was good. It was fine. It's aside from, we talked about it, Kylian Mbappe just forgetting what an offside line is. Seriously, like I'm not trying to be an asshole and be so harsh on this guy, but it seems like we got Mbappe from Wish. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. You mentioned it. He was so good for PSG and for France for, curving his run and holding it and finding the best time to get him behind. What happened? It seemed like as if he was playing a match against himself. It really looked like he was like fighting himself on the pitch, and he was just trying so hard to do something without letting it become natural. To be offside like 6 times in like 35 minutes, something like that. And yeah, like 1 or 2 of the goals were like kind of close, but then like after that, it just kind of became really laughable. And I'm like, I don't get what you're doing. Just calm down. I don't know if the moment swallowed him up. I don't know if it was the expectations. I don't know if it was just him having a bad game. Players have bad games. It's fine. It happens. But what I don't understand is that how does he not make a mental adjustment? And how is it that with like 5-10 minutes to go in the game, he's still making runs offside? What's going on? Like, what is actually going on? I don't understand it. And 100% credit to Barcelona, because with all due respect, this was a bunch of kids playing us. Or Real Madrid, at least.
Yeah, well, and I think that's so. I get what you're saying, but ultimately in the first half, like I thought the defense did well. Like Lunin did well. Like it was just the offense wasn't going, and to me, like maybe it sounds crazy, but I don't really put this loss at the feet. I know some people were like, and look, like Lucas Vazquez is not a right back, like, and he's gonna make mistakes.
Preach.
And there were some plays there where it's like, and I'm already hearing now that Madrid's not gonna buy anybody in the January window, and that's like, okay, so like we just don't want to win anything. Like, honestly, to me, it's like if you're not buying, like, and I love Lucas Vazquez, and I think that he has value in someone that you can insert into a game when you need to be a little bit more offensive, when legs are tired, and he won't be exploited as much. But if he has to be doing the due diligence of dropping back all game, and because he wasn't dropping back as well and like not doing his defensive duties, it left Jude to do a lot of that. And like, I know that Jude can do that. And let me be clear, like, if people want to debate what Jude's best position is in the midfield, and I'm not even fully arguing that he has to be a number 10, like attacking part of the diamond, his best position might be like an 8 or whatever. Like it could be. I'm not saying that it necessarily isn't. I don't think in the structure of what the team was, that was the best way to use him, honestly. Like, and this is where it's so people can sit here and like, I saw how Vasquez played. It wasn't great. I wasn't happy about it. I thought the center backs did okay. They switched off near the end, and they're like a couple of those goals are on them. But also, like, I kind of see it as like to use another analogy. Like when I'm playing basketball and I'm at like a run at the Y, and I give a guy a pass, and he's open. Like he's open for a shot, or he can drive. And then he takes he takes a shot and he misses. And the next time I give it to him again, and the drive is there, but he like once again shoots from a similar area that he didn't hit earlier, or like he forces like when they keep wasting the ball, I no longer want to pass to you. Like I'll give everybody 2 or 3 tries. Like, hey, show me that you know what you're doing. Like basically, and not even like that you're good. Literally, just that you understand how the game is played. That you know that you're going to make a decision that is positive for this team. Because if it's not, I'm going to stop giving you the ball. And it's the flip side. If I'm doing the positive things offensively and I'm never getting the ball because someone's just ball hogging and thinks that they're James Harden, I stop wanting to do that part of it. Like I don't. It's natural. Like, and you can sit there and say, well, these are multi-million-dollar athletes. They're paid to do that. Yeah, sure. But there are also people that have these same frustrations. And like, think about, this is why Mbappe is such a flashpoint. What has changed in this team? I understand that Cruz isn't there. Fully understand. And that is hurting a lot. Honestly, a game like this, Cruz probably gets Vinicius Jr. like 10 chances that he buries. Like, honestly, this game was screaming out for Toni Kroos. And that's where you can get into like maybe Luka Modric should have been brought on a little sooner, what changes could have been made, and maybe that's the next part of the conversation. But that's why Mbappe is a flashpoint, because who have we lost? We've lost Cruz and we've lost Hosselu.
Jeez.
Honestly. And Cruz is a massive miss. But you know who else would have been great today? On Saturday. Sorry. Hosselu would have been fucking phenomenal. Like
just a pure striker. Like just the guy who's in the box.
You can tell, like, the more we talk about it, I'm gonna get more envy, because it's literally just like that's why he's such a flashpoint. And for me, it's like you can afford to not have like a tactical system that's like drilled in if the players that are interpreting it are all interpreting it correctly and making the most of the chances. But because we're bending this team so much to fit Kylian Mbappe, the way that Jude and Vinicius specifically have to interpret their roles is making them suffer. And Jude more than Vinicius, because Vinicius, unfortunately for Mbappe, he waited too long, and now Vinicius is the best left winger in the world. He's the best player in the world, but that's a different conversation. So now Mbappe has to play as a 9. And like Jude was doing better at that than you are currently. Like he did better than that, and he's a midfielder. So I don't know. It's frustrating, and like it sounds like we're kids that are crying because we got that extra piece of cake, and now our stomachs hurt. But let me be clear: I never wanted the piece of cake. Once Mbappe said no the first time, I knew it was going to happen because Perez quite literally could not allow himself to not do this.
Yeah.
But I didn't want him anymore. Even Harry Kane. I got my issues with Harry Kane, and I got my issues with where people rank him as a striker all time. But you can't tell me that if Harry Kane's in this game with his ability to drop deep and let people run on and the passes that he makes and how good he is at just scoring goals, that we wouldn't have killed him. Because if Robert Lewandowski can do, and again, a player who had a very bad game for most of it and then was saved by a goal that he got, like that's Robert Lewandowski. But whatever, I don't want to get on that whole thing. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we can talk about Mbappe till death. I guess the next thing that I think you want to talk about and I think is worth talking about, how much of the blame goes to Carlo? And maybe people think we're not focusing on Barcelona enough. Let me just say this. We've acknowledged that they did well. They played their strategy well. But if this is the Real Madrid team from last year, I'm sorry, you're getting fried. Like, And that's my honest opinion. So I'm not gonna give you more credit than that. I'm sorry, I just can't. I'm not gonna.
100%. I'll touch on Carlo in a second just to wrap up a couple points. To go over like Barcelona's lineup and what I mentioned about there was kids playing. Like for those who didn't watch the game and don't know, Inigo Martinez was their center back. Like they had no Araujo, and in the midfield it was Martin Lopez, and they had Casado, who I think was the best player for Barcelona on the pitch. Credit to him, but they had Kubarsi in the back line. Like this was just a bunch of kids who like basically ran wild on Real Madrid because they couldn't figure out how to work a high line. And that's the biggest thing for me, because I thought that was one of the biggest weaknesses to exploit for Hansi Flick and for Barcelona was Real Madrid's ability to take advantage of high lines, because they'd done it before. Like we've seen it so many times with Vini. It's not just Mbappe's fault, 100%. But this was a terrible game for him. And I think he took a massive blow and he's going to have to come back. But just to echo on your point, we're not playing FC 25. Like, we get it. Mbappe is one of, if some people think the best player in the world, whatever. He's not a striker. This is my opinion. He's not a striker. He is something in between a left winger and a striker. When he plays for France, Griezmann kind of plays that center forward hybrid role, and then Mbappe finds the runs in behind. That's why he's so good. And because a national team is so much more different than a club team. Honestly, just like Ruben said, after he said no, I didn't want him anymore. You don't use Real Madrid as leverage to get yourself a higher contract with PSG. Dude, fuck off to PSG. Sit in Paris and don't win the Champions League for another 4 years and make $300 million. See if anybody cares. How does that feel? No, I get it. Like, I understand. Like, Paris just couldn't let that go. But in all honesty, I feel like a Harry Kane, he wasn't as, I don't know how big he really is right now, and there's questions about him, but like, in Sporting, of Victor Gyökeres, like he's like the hot commodity now at striker.
Osimhen,
he looks good. Osimhen,
like
Vlahovic, anybody young. The new system at Real Madrid is supposed to be young players that develop, right? But an actual striker. But the problem there, like at hand, and we have to focus on Carlo right now, is that I think that this has been the underlying problem. I mentioned a little earlier. We don't have a system. We haven't found a system that we play consistently, and we rely on that. And then you tweak the system when things start going wrong. Last year, there was a system. It was Rodrigo and Vini kind of making runs in behind. Jude was kind of like the quote unquote, hybrid 9 or whatever you want to call it, like false 9. And he would make runs into the box. And that was like the system. It was a diamond. The diamond would be adjusted. We're shoehorning Mbappe in for nothing. And I think when you look at the track record of the games we had before, if you look at the results that we actually look good, I think there is a common denominator, and that is that Luka Modric started. Because he is basically the Toni Kroos role. That's what he was doing. And I think, yes, I know he's getting older. You could have played him like 60, 65 minutes, whatever. I absolutely think he could have started. I just think the formation didn't really make sense. I don't understand why Camavinga was on the left side in kind of like a weird, like left mid kind of position. I know he moved around a lot on the pitch. I definitely think Modric should have started ahead of him. And yeah, there was just so many gaps with Vasquez in his position. And, I don't understand why we didn't move somebody else over, put Militao on the right side, maybe bring in even a Vallejo or somebody who could just be like a more defensive stalwart. It's confusing to me why Ancelotti didn't make substitutions sooner, didn't realize that there's such big of a gap with a team with so much pace in behind. We like Vasquez. I like Vasquez too, but he's like a winger who wasn't really that great as a winger, but has now been kind of forced to be used as a backup right back. But he's more of like a wing back-ish.
Yeah. For me, stuff that you touched on that I want to say, it's like, yeah, Luka Modric is great, and he's been crucial in a lot of the wins. I think you have to decide if you're going to use him as a closer or as an opener. It's weird, but like, let's take it into baseball analogies. Because we're talking about baseball before the podcast. My Yankees lost to the Dodgers, but you know what?
It's been a rough week. Rough week for Ruben.
Yeah, but congrats to Shohei Ohtani. He's kind of a goat. But yeah, like either you're going to use Luka and you're like, okay, like we're going to start you because you can get the game started at the pace that we want. You can exploit those gaps. You can maybe tire out the opposition with some of the runs that you'll open up for Vinicius and Mbappe if he's out there, or Rodrigo or whoever. And then we'll pull you at around 55, 60 minutes after you've given us what you can. And then we'll put in some fresh young legs and they will kind of take it from there. Or you use them the opposite. And genuinely, I mean, like 50 minutes, you put him in. He could even be a sub at the half, depending on what the game is. And that's where this game, for me, it's like the changes I would have made, and you talked about it. Push out Militao to the right, put Tchouaméni in defense, take out Vasquez, add Luka Modric, and to be 100% honest, you could have easily pulled Mbappe based off what he had done. Put Adra on the right, turn it into a diamond.
Arda.
Adra. Sorry, yeah. Put and make it into a diamond. Bellingham in the middle, Adra on the right, Vini on the left, Luka left middle, Jude as the tip of the diamond, Valverde, and then Camavinga at the base.
Yeah, I have no reason to like dispute that. I don't understand what Ancelotti saw from his team that he wasn't like, it's not working. The couple chances that were close with Mbappe. Yeah, I can understand that, but after that, it's just him being blatantly offside, and it's like, what? Maybe you're having a bad game. Maybe it's time to just give it a rest or something like that. Like let's switch something up for the team's sake.
Yeah, and I think ultimately that's where I think he gets the most blame. His changes could have been more decisive and quicker. Mendy, for what it's worth, also had a very bad game, and I've been a Mendy defender, but he had a really bad game. I think bringing Fran in was a good idea. But again, if you're bringing Fran in, then I think you have to shield the back line with Vasquez more. It's a whole thing. But what I do think is like, it's clear that whether it's Ancelotti or it's Perez, everyone wants this Mbappe thing to work. And how much pressure is being put on Ancelotti to keep him in the starting 11. And I'm not even talking about like Perez actually saying like you have to play him, but I just mean the fact that Ancelotti's not an idiot and he knows that Perez wants this guy to play. He knows what his contract actually is and how much he's getting paid, and he knows what a big star he is. Because on form, you wouldn't start him at this point. Like Madrid's game has been postponed because of the natural disaster accidents in Spain, most notably the Valencia area, which like our hearts go out, prayers to everybody, hopefully everybody's okay. But if that game was happening this weekend, like if you were playing Football Manager where there's no real oversight above you, you wouldn't start Mbappe.
No.
Right? And so
like what reason do you have to start him?
It feels like Ancelotti's trying to protect him from criticism that he thinks may come if he gets pulled early or if he doesn't start or the anger that might come. But at this point, aren't you just doing the reverse? Like the longer that he's out there and we don't see any punishment or any real change of the strategy to make it work, it's just going to be blamed more and more on him. And if you're another player on that team, if you're Adra Güler, a part of you is wondering, okay, like I do good for country. I've done good for club in the little moments that I've had. I had a great Euros. Brahim Diaz comes back and he's just fit enough and he gets to play before I do.
Says a lot.
Yeah. Does that not frustrate you? Is that not alienating an asset that could be very important in the near future, like the very near future? So it's, I don't know. For me, it's like that's where Ancelotti's letting himself down, because it's like we're trying to protect Mbappe with bubble wrap a bit, and why? Like at this point, why? He's either gonna fail or he's gonna succeed. Yeah. We saw it with Hazard. Zidane really, really wanted Hazard, and he probably got Hazard a couple years too late. Yeah. And then he died by Hazard. He was trying to play Hazard in front of Vinicius. And this has the same feeling of like we're trying to play a player just because of a name ahead of other players that maybe deserve it more.
So Vinicius didn't have the best game either on that day, but at least he had chances and were close. Like there was one he squandered where he should have absolutely scored, but he looked like one of the most threatening players on the pitch. I 100%, Zidane loved Hazard. There was that Belgian-French kind of, French-speaking connection there. And he tried for so long and was patient. Hazard's a bit of a different story because he was just so injury-prone and just made of glass for some reason ever since he came to Real Madrid. But I agree with you with Mbappe. The more Ancelotti, I think, shoehorns him into this team, the more it's actually working in the opposite and hurting him. I don't understand. Like, we spoke about this after the game on Saturday. I mentioned I understand there's no actual free transfers. There's some sort of fees and everything involved, but he didn't have an actual transfer fee. That was also one of the big reasons Perez and Real Madrid signed him this year, because there was no transfer fee. So it's almost like a steal. He doesn't have a big tag attached to him that you also have to worry about. Yes, he's the big name, but if it's not working, just bench him. I said it in one of the last few episodes. I don't care if it's a hot take. He's not working, just bench him. Start Arda Güler. Start Rodrigo. Start Brahim Diaz. Anybody. Like, start whatever formation you want. Go back to the same thing last year that we were doing and play the same players. It's not working, obviously. And I said it, and I'll repeat myself again. Mbappe has to come into this team and show he can elevate Real Madrid. Real Madrid won multiple Champions Leagues without him. It's not the other way around. Like, it's not our job to elevate Mbappe. Like, obviously, it's supposed to be like a system that both sides like help each other out, but he needs to come in and show, yes, he is worth coming in after the whole transfer fiasco of, using Real Madrid as leverage and all that.
Yeah. And for me, it's like, man, like, I'm going to compare us to a team that I also truly hate, but Manchester City brought in Jack Grealish. His first season, he barely played because he couldn't play Pep Guardiola's system. Second season, he was really crucial to the treble. Then they got Doku, and they're like, actually, your form has slipped, and this young kid from the academy is giving us something that you're not, so you're going to take more of a back seat. And last year, they still won the title. They whatever. I think that's all they won, actually. Right? Because or maybe they won one of the League Cups. Because
I think they won a League Cup.
League Cup. It must have been the League Cup because they lost to United in the
FA Cup.
Yeah, and they didn't win the Champions League.
Mm. Pause.
Yeah, but yeah. So honestly, and like with how much games players are being asked to play, and the fitness, and what, like, I don't think it's crazy to just say like, okay, like until you guys make it work, Vinicius and Mbappe, you're alternating games. Mbappe, we're gonna use the Copa del Rey, have fun, play in third division sides to get back in form. And if there's a game in the league that's a bit softer, we'll use you there too. But Vinicius right now is Champions League and the big ties in La Liga. Then make the rest of it fit around them. To your point, that's a crazy thing to say, and I know people will look at us and be like, how could you bench Mbappe? Tell us that you wouldn't do the same thing if this was your team. What other player? And I only get so passionate about this because, like, I love Vinicius Jr. And if we do have time for the other conversation that we were planning on having, I will go into how much I love him and why. But I saw this fan base want to rake him over the coals when he was a kid playing for the biggest club in the world because he missed a couple of chances and made a couple bad decisions. We're not getting the Mbappe that was playing at Monaco. We're not getting a young Mbappe. He's played at the highest level. He has won at the highest level. He's won a World Cup. He's made it to another World Cup final and lost despite scoring a hat trick. He's been a part of a PSG team that had Champions League aspirations, and the one time he got to the finals couldn't get them over the line. So this is a person that's uniquely been privy to the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. He's been on the other side of a Real Madrid remontada. So, like, he knows. He's not a kid. He's played in Europe his entire life. If you compare that to Vinicius Jr., who came over from a Brazilian league that is not what it used to be, that is not even like a tenth of the pressure globally. Obviously, in that league, it'll be pressure when you're young Brazilian talent. You're trying to make your way up and grow your game. But, like, it's nothing compared to playing on the Champions League with Real Madrid where you're expected to be perfect. And what has Vinicius done? Scored in every finals that he's been a part of. So why can't we bench Mbappe? Honestly,
I don't see a reason why not. I don't understand why anyone logically would disagree with us. You play based off form. Like, class is permanent, form is temporary. That's the age-old expression. I believe Mbappe is a great player. And if I was talking to Mbappe as Archulati, I would say, where is the Mbappe that I saw the clip of in halftime in the World Cup final, galvanizing his team and saying, it's okay. They score 2, whatever. It's a new half. We'll start again. We start again. Well, all we can do is play worse? Like, no, we could play better. They score 2, we'll score 2. Where is that Mbappe? To look at himself and say, yo, get it together. Stop running offside so much. And galvanize his teammates. And again, it's not just Mbappe. I want to focus on a couple other players. I think Valverde and Bellingham also were really like not in this game. They were lost. I don't know if it was the whole second half, the whole ethos and the whole team just crumbled. But where were the runs in behind from Valverde? I don't think I saw one. No. Where was Bellingham running in behind? I think I saw one from Bellingham. I might be wrong there. Guys, what happened? Like, yeah, of course, they're playing better than you. It happens sometimes. But is Real Madrid not known for coming back? Of course we are. Like, that's why, like, I will never judge a Real Madrid game until the final whistle, because we could be down 3-0. Like, especially in the Champions League, I don't know what it takes to actually kill this team. Like, they've shocked me so many times that I'm just like, holy shit. But we're never down until the fat lady sings. And I don't understand why there was no effort from any other players to say, like, guys, let's pull each other together, let's galvanize us. And everybody was kind of just standing around waiting for somebody to do better. And honestly, aside from Vinicius, who looked like the strongest player on the pitch, you know, I understand Rodrigo was out. I understand David Alaba isn't dealing with a whole bunch of, like, you know, cruciate injuries, and apparently he doesn't have any ligaments or tendons in his knee, and that sounds like really, really bad. And hopefully he can actually play for Real Madrid again. And I understand that Courtois wasn't playing. And honestly, I think like one of the goals, maybe two, if Courtois is in, it's probably a save.
That first goal,
it's a save. Yeah,
Lewandowski didn't take it that well. Like he slotted it in because Lunin is not as good at cutting off those angles, and he's smaller. He doesn't have the wingspan that Courtois has. The second I saw that goal going, I was like, Courtois saves that. And people think I'm crazy, but like he's the best keeper in the world. So you kick
I don't
fucking
think so.
Rocks. Like I don't care. Yeah, you nailed it too. Like, but it sounds like I'm being weirdly harsh on Mbappe, but to be fair, I think he's earned it. But it's really just like, I think Vinicius had a good game. You can quibble about some of the decisions he made and some of the chances he didn't take, but ultimately he was creating the bulk of the chances, not just for himself, but for Mbappe and others. And then I thought that Rudiger and Militao, until the wheels like fell off 100%, were having good games. The people that I think should hang their heads on this being on them the most are Mendy, Mbappe, and Vasquez, personally. And for the rest of them, I thought Camavinga played well. I thought he did what he could do in the role that he was given. It was a weird role. And again, I don't know if... Yeah, I know Tchouaméni doesn't like playing center back, but a part of me is almost wondering, like, would it not just be better for you back there? Like, I don't know. But
yeah,
I thought he did okay as well. Still, like, I'm not going to put anything that happened on them 100%, because like whenever the scoreline got more open, Madrid got more open, transition was more open, it all got a bit wacky. The sad part was, like, yeah, you have Bellingham and Valverde, who are two engines of this team, both like emotionally and physically, and it felt like their level dropped because of frustration or despair. And I think a part of that, honestly, is, again, it comes back to Mbappe and it comes back to Carlo Ancelotti. And it's like, yeah, like, we make these big heroic things in the Champions League, but usually they're precipitated by some sort of change or some sort of like change in attitude. And it felt like Madrid came out in the second half just dead on their feet. So it's like, what happened in the locker room? Who didn't speak that was supposed to speak, or who spoke and what did they say? Because it just felt like the fight had kind of gone out of them. Like, that first punch took the wind out of them. And then by the time they were starting to get the wind back, the second punch came and then it was done. Like, once the second goal came in, I still believe, because I always believe, and they're my team, and we've seen them do amazing things, but all logical parts of my brain were like, they just haven't shown enough to believe that they're going to get out of this hole.
Yeah. In all honesty, like, it could have been worse. It could have been like 6 or 7.
Oh my God, yeah, for sure.
So,
for sure.
like,
easily.
They did stop the bleeding a little bit. I'm not going to be as nice as you are to the defense. I think Rudiger and Militao really had bad games. I think Rudiger especially was just kind of caught out of position so many times. But yeah, I really wonder, just like you said, like, what was said or not said at halftime. Like, I'm looking at, I know we don't have a Sergio Ramos type in there anymore, or, just that vocal leader who you can identify like right away that like that's Real Madrid's captain right now. People are growing and they need to step up. But I look at, Vini, who's been here a while and who's won, and Rudiger and Militao, and, even someone like Bellingham or whatever. I look at these players who are good players, who have won matches and who have won silverware, to like, look around and be like senior players and at their teammates and say, guys, like, this is not the standard. Like, we are better than this. And like, honestly, it's like, even if it's to that point, like, you don't want to go in with that mentality, but if it's like, if we're going to lose, like, let's batten down the hatches and like, just make it at least a respectable performance that like we tried. But I think, honestly, just to my last point on this, I think just going forward, the only thing that has to change is that we need to find a system that works. We can't just constantly rely on individual talent. I'm reading on like ESPN today, like there's a bunch of transfer rumors. Apparently, like Real Madrid are kind of out on Tchouaméni already. I don't know how true that is.
I saw the person that reported that was Revello, and they're usually just stirring up nonsense. I don't think they would give up on him this early, and I think he's shown enough to bank on. Like, I don't.
Yeah,
and he has flexibility, like we said. Like,
100%.
He can play center back. He may not love it, but he can play. It's the same thing with Camavinga. Like, he can play on the left, like as a left back, right? Like, he doesn't like it. It's not his preferred position, but he can do it. So I don't put stock in that. Why would they sell now? Like,
no, and now too. And like, listen, like maybe they brought him in to be the Toni Kroos role. And again, he's not that. He is more of a defensive ball-winning six. He's not even what Casemiro was, who was kind of just more of like a destroyer. And honestly, like at one point, Casemiro had like the second most goals behind Benzema. Like, he became like a goal-scoring center, defensive mid. Shout out Casemiro, who scored on the weekend or a few days ago for Manchester United.
For Ruud van Nistelrooy. Manchester United.
Yeah, apparently he's not washed anymore after he gets out of Ten Hag, a bald fraud. But yeah, like I'm seeing we're linked with like Trent or even like Pedro Porro. Honestly, I know what they've said, that they don't want to sign anybody. I wholeheartedly agree with what you were saying, that like that basically to me is that we're not winning anything, or if we do, it's going to be really, really hard. We need a signing. We need a right back, or we need another center back to push Militao onto the right, and we need to change the system. And for God's sakes, just bench Mbappe for how long it takes to figure him out, because we're probably better with Arda Güler out there or Rodrigo in as a 9. That's honestly, I think it's the truth.
Yeah. I think we've reached the end of being able to complain about El Clasico. We got as deep as we can get. I guess I have one last thing that I want to ask you, because you did. I mean, we touched on everything that we had on our doc. I agree with you that the biggest change I would make going forward is maybe considering the possibility of Mbappe not being in the starting 11 for a bit. How much pressure do you think Carlo Ancelotti's under, like realistically? Because to me, I don't think it's that much pressure as people think, partly because Perez probably wants Xabi Alonso. And if you fire Ancelotti midseason, you're not going to get Xabi Alonso to step in right away. He's not going to leave Leverkusen like that. So then you're rolling with an interim manager who may or may not be great. And you wouldn't be able to hire anybody else until you figure it would just leave it in flux. So I kind of think Ancelotti has a bit of a free hit, because he's probably done at the end of this year anyways because of the Xabi Alonso talk. I don't know how you see all of that though.
It's tough to say, and like the season is young. Like Real Madrid are 6 points behind Barcelona, and the El Clasicos and games like these are kind of like 5-pointers, 6-pointers, whatever you want to call it. The season is young, and Real Madrid does kind of peak late towards like the kind of the second half. I don't think he's really under any threat to be fired unless like everything absolutely just goes to shit, which I don't see happening. Because then we could have like who's the interim manager we have? Solari. We could have that. Oh boy, that was rough.
Credit to Solari though, he played Vinicius more than half.
Yes. That is true. Thank you for that. But yeah, like I don't want to have some interim guy come in and just be like a guy for a bit, and we just kind of like sputter out towards the end of the season. Given what Carlo has done in his track record, and I believe in Carlo. I think Real Madrid fans believe in Carlo, but I do think changes need to be made, and if they aren't made, then he's going to become more scrutinized. I don't think he's under threat to be fired. I think he probably plays out the season. Whatever happens, happens. And I think Xabi Alonso is probably the new coach in the new season, which will be interesting.
Yeah, I kind of agree.
Do you want to talk about Ballon d'Or, or do you want to save that for another one?
We're at the 43-ish minute mark because there's 3 minutes that are going to be cut out because of my dog. But it's up to you. I think that what I have to say is not. I mean, like, because I think we're aligned on a lot of it. For me, it's like going to be like a bench sesh. If you want to save it for a more of a a deep dive in one of the coming weeks when we talk about the Prem or where there may not be as many games or storylines. We can do that. But I'm also very game to talk about it now.
Honestly, I think we just make this a longer one. Let's just do it for the people. Stick around. If you want to hear about the Ballon d'Or, we're going to complain a little bit more. If not, then you can log off and we'll catch you on the next episode.
To kind of, I'll let you go first because you let me go first and I'll Classico. So to set the scene, I guess the cleanest way to set the scene is basically late Sunday, early Monday, reports started to come out that Vinicius hadn't been the one to win the Ballon d'Or after like a few months, I would say, of people basically saying it was either him or Rodri. But in the last month, it very sharply started to become people were saying Vinicius had definitely won. The list was leaked, and the list ended up being right, basically 35-2, or 35-3. It was just Rodrigo and Vinicius that were the ones that were wrong and were flipped. So Rodrigo ended up winning. The big fallout from that is Vinicius and Real Madrid did not attend. They, from what we understand, Florentino Perez made that decision unilaterally. It wasn't really Vinicius that asked to not go or to say not to send anybody. Perez said no one's going. So Madrid weren't there to pick up the Team of the Year award, and Carlo was not there to pick up his Coach of the Year award. That caused a bit of pearl clutching and hand wringing across the football world in terms of whether Real Madrid should have gone or not. And the fallout from that has basically just been most of Twitter, if you're on that side of Twitter, just arguing why Vinicius deserved it, and then the Manchester City fans and Barcelona fans telling people why Rodrigo deserved it.
Why are Barcelona fans getting involved in something that has absolutely nothing to do with them? Like, is this really what you're... Whatever. Anyway, I am going to put this pretty simply. I think the Ballon d'Or basically lost any sort of credibility for me around... Hold on a second. I'm just pulling it up. Around the 2019 season. This is when it was awarded to Messi again. And for me, like, I can understand after the Messi-Ronaldo era, it was kind of, less, distinct sometimes of who is exactly the best player in the world and who should definitely win it. But I think in 2019, we kind of just gave it to Messi for Messi being Messi, because people like Messi and he's a poster boy for FIFA and he's a good boy, and Ronaldo is bad because he is arrogant and yada, yada, yada. And he, I don't know, spends too much time on his hair and eyebrows. I don't know what it is. But I think Ronaldo had a better season at Juventus. I think he won more trophies. I don't see what Messi did to deserve it. And honestly, like, I even think if Van Dijk won, I would have been okay in him winning in 2019. But then again, in 2021, it goes to Messi again. And I think 2021 was 100% a robbery of Lewandowski. And then 2023, when Messi is on Inter Miami now, and it goes to him again. And I don't see why it wasn't giving to Erling Haaland or Kylian Mbappe. Honestly, I think really the 2019 season onwards, I really think it's just become a popularity contest, and I think it has lost any sort of credibility for me. I think it needs to be defined, like, what is the award? Is it the most valuable player? Is it the best player in the world? Is it the most important player? I don't even know, and like, I don't even think FIFA cares because they're just giving it to anybody. To focus specifically on this year, tell me why, just tell me in one sentence, anybody who's listening, why Rodri deserves to win it over Vinicius. Did he win more trophies? No. Did he score more goals and create more offensive chances for his team? No. I get it. He's a different player and he does a different thing for Manchester City, but he played well for Manchester City and he's absolutely probably the best center defensive mid in the world, but he didn't win any near trophies and he's not as polarizing as a player and as he is, in his position that Vinicius Jr. is. When you look at general rhetoric, like I looked at other YouTube channels, I went out to see more information about this, and everybody seemed to have the same saying of, how does Vini not win it? Because it's not just Real Madrid fans who say it. There's a general rhetoric out there right now that people say that it's either Vinicius, and most of them say it's Vinicius, or if not, Erling Haaland, who is the best player in the world. So it's not just Real Madrid fans who are saying it. Unbiased fans of British teams, Manchester United, Liverpool, Chelsea, blah, blah, whatever. I've listened to multiple different YouTube channels, multiple different podcasts. We choose to keep ourselves informed on here. everybody has the same rhetoric of, yes, why did he not win it? He's the best player in the world. He's the most electrifying player. He's fun to watch, etc., etc. Listen, should Real Madrid have gone? Should was it like kind of a bit of an immature thing not to go? I guess, but honestly, at that point, when there is zero logic behind any sort of award ceremony and behind anything FIFA is doing, I don't see why there needs to be logic behind anything that Real Madrid is doing. And honestly, I think that like FIFA specifically, and sometimes the football community really doesn't like Real Madrid and views us as the bad people. Because when we win a game against Manchester City, it's, oh, we're playing defensively and we're boring and they were lucky to win. But if anybody else does that, it's a tactical masterclass all of a sudden. And honestly, I think really what was disrespectful when on the broadcast of the Ballon d'Or, FIFA starts making fun of Mbappe and Vinicius. Like, seriously? I think that really showed how weak FIFA is. And I honestly showed how much they really need Real Madrid to show up, because they need the biggest team in the world and the most successful team in club history to show up at their prized event. And just to show, I'm going to put the picture up when we edit it, just to show how hard FIFA has fallen off. When you look at the Team of the Year award and compare it to the one from a few years ago, holy man, y'all need some big changes and referendums to the people who vote, to the people who have the whole system there, to how you give awards out. But you know what? Real Madrid will always be the bad guy, and we'll accept it. I'll take all the hate. I'll take all the spite, and we'll win all the games, and we'll win 1-0, and we'll come back and whatever, and blah, blah, blah. It's not just Real Madrid. The general rhetoric of the football public knows who's the best player in the world, and that is Vini Jr. And congratulations to Vini Jr. for winning the Ballon d'Or in our universe, because we got a parallel universe showing. There was a glitch in the Matrix, and we got a parallel universe showing of the Ballon d'Or ceremony.
The Diamond Black timeline for
Diamond Black, yeah. Anyway, that's my rant.
Yeah. My rant is going to be similar. I want to attack this. I guess I'll start from where you ended off, because there are podcasts that I listen to, obviously, about football that aren't ours, that I with full of people that I respect, and obviously even some of my friends who watch football were talking to it about me. And there's this idea that Real Madrid had to show up to be embarrassed, basically, or that it was classless to not go, as if these award ceremonies are. It's funny because I've heard similar people or similar podcasts talk about how useless some of these awards are, or how little value they have in terms of individual awards in a team sport, which I largely agree with. And these awards really aren't for us as fans. They're for the players and the dignitaries, and this is an excuse to put a party on and drink, and just a celebration of excess in the sport. So if the Ballon d'Or went away tomorrow, it really wouldn't matter. We would still sit here, debate who the best players are. People would have their favorites. It would be very clear who people like more than others. You know what I mean? I don't think anybody needed the Ballon d'Or back in the 1960s, 1970s to tell them that Pele was really good. I really don't. So, so to a certain extent, these awards are meaningless. So why do people care? There have been Messi hasn't shown up on years where he hasn't won all the time, and Ronaldo the same, but obviously it gets highlighted when Ronaldo does it, because like you said, they don't like Ronaldo, and a bunch of that has to do with not liking Real Madrid. And there's one podcast in particular, they always say Real Madrid are like the evil empire, the bad guys, and yet in this podcast, they were trying to argue, well, they should have gone there because, Real Madrid don't understand that with all their history and all their thing, they could be even bigger if they showed more class. I'm like, well, class isn't showing up to when you're going to get embarrassed. And for me, some people took the conversation in a way that I agree with, but obviously I'm not going to hammer the point too hard on, because ultimately it's something that can't be proven. But Vinicius seems to believe, and people in his camp believe, that part of the reason why he didn't get it is because of his stance against racism in football, and how football is really not equipped to deal with it. And I don't see how you couldn't make that argument, because if you look at the criteria for the Ballon d'Or, they added in that your class on and off the pitch matters and stuff, and Rodri has choked an Arsenal player on the pitch, and Emi Martinez, who won the goalkeeper of the year, pretended to have sex with a glove after the Qatar World Cup, and it routinely does shithousery things. But I've noticed a weird trend that when Vinicius dances, or when he does a celebration, or when he stands up to racism, he's provoking and he's not doing something that he should be. And yet when Lamine Yamal did the Calma a celebration to the Real Madrid fans, it was okay. So all this to say, like, if people expect Real Madrid to just like bow its head and be like, oh yeah, we'll show up and get embarrassed, and like, to me, the memes are what really sent it to me. Like, all of this stuff like would have basically been nebulous. We don't know how much Vinicius on-field actions, off-field actions really had a sway. We don't know a lot of that stuff. But to me, when you see the memes, I'm like, oh, you just wanted to embarrass him. Like, you wanted to bring him here to embarrass him. And the fact that like Rodrigo's also a Nike athlete, and when following the thing, Vinicius tweeted on X, he was like, I'll do it 10 more times if I have to, like blah blah. And Nike replied to him and was like, yeah, we can't wait, basically. It's clear that there was some rollout that they thought that he was going to win. And for anybody who thinks that these decisions are really kept like secret, like, you're naive. Like, Madrid wouldn't have believed this hard if there wasn't enough smoke to that fire. I'm not saying that they changed it last minute, because that's like a conspiracy to the level of insanity. But what I am saying is UEFA and FIFA and the powers that be allowed Madrid to believe that they were going to win, to the point where I think even Nike thought, yeah, our guy's going to win. We have a press run after. Like, it just made too much sense. Like, why would you believe that hard? But all this to say, the people that say that Madrid acted without class by not going, I think you're losers, honestly. Like, even if you're a friend of mine, like, I can respect your opinion. But to me, like, this award, it's lost all its meaning. Like you said, we can go back years and years. Lewandowski probably should have won. I love that international tournaments mean a lot when it's certain players, but when Haaland scores, like, City fans were more happy for him not to win it against Messi than they were for Rodrigo to win it here. And it's like, Haaland was part of a treble team and broke the record for most goals in the Premier League. And everyone just is like, well, Messi scored a lot of penalties in the World Cup. And so this argument, too, that Rodrigo had somehow a more consistent season, I don't know, man. Real Madrid beat Manchester City, and again, to your point, they never give Madrid credit, so they'll say, oh, very defensive, very negative, they didn't do anything, they got lucky, they dodged bullets, they won in a penalty shootout, which was a bit of a lottery. But funny how it's a lottery when Madrid wins that way, but when England is losing like that, or other national teams, well, you got to practice. Or, I mean, Emi Martinez's whole shtick is that he's good at saving penalties, so it's a skill for some, but it's not a skill for others. Make that make sense for me. If you're saying, well, Rodri won internationally and Vinicius didn't do good at the Copa America, all right, fair. You know who else won internationally? Dani Carvajal, a man who scored in the Champions League final, a man who won the league with his team. Maybe he deserves it for his rock solid season at the right back position. You know who else had a pretty good Euros and a pretty good year? And if you look at the stats and the positions that they play, very similar to Rodri, but better. Toni Kroos, who did it at an age where most people are slowing down, and he was still a metronome. And honestly, if a handball gets called on Cucurella when it should be, maybe Germany is in the finals instead of Spain. So this idea that Rodri was some kind of rock, I don't know if people remember. Maybe I'll remind you. Rodri got pulled at halftime because of an injury, and Spain were losing, and then they overturned that without him. So in the biggest game of the season for Spain, he wasn't even on the pitch. And for how important Rodri is, Manchester City is still top of the Premier League right now. I don't know, man.
It's the calendar year. It's not his fault. Sorry to interrupt, but it's not his fault. He got injured. He hasn't played this season. And again, you just said it. Manchester City's on top of the league. We know Real Madrid has struggled and they're not doing the greatest, but Vini's been playing and scoring goals.
Yeah.
Make it make sense.
It's just embarrassing, man. And to your point, yeah, it's just for me. And to wrap it up, because we're getting a bit long, and I don't want to bore people forever. But I'll leave it with a couple points. Vinicius Jr. is the best player on the planet. And if you think differently, you can think differently. I just don't respect that opinion. I truly don't. I don't. I've seen what Vinicius has done to the top teams. I've seen what he does in Europe. I've seen what he does consistently. and he's better. And if people want to say, well, his stats are better because he's an attacker versus Rodri, well, there's also the flip side of Rodri's playing for a Spain team with a great spine that protects him and that he protects, and he's playing in a Manchester City team that, like, this is what frustrates me. Manchester City's the best team, and anyone who beats them is lucky, or well, they're lucky if they're Madrid or they pull off some kind of great tactical battle if they're anybody else. And yet, the players are somehow holding this whole ship up. But also, Guardiola's a genius and he can win with anybody. So, like, these are all things that counteract each other. Either Guardiola's a genius and you could put literally anybody there and they'll still roll teams, or he's a fraud that needs the most expensive players and Rodri's the glue that's holding it together, or Rodri's just a cog. And sorry, seeing the majority of Guardiola teams throughout the year, he's a cog. He's a cog. Is he the best cog that they could possibly have? Absolutely. I'm not going to argue that anybody else plays Rodri's position better than him right now. But would Rodri still be this standout on fucking Newcastle or fucking Manchester United? Honestly.
It's a good question. It's a good question. And I think it goes both ways, but I will bet my car that Vini does better than Rodri does in different teams.
Yeah. So to me, if you think that Vinicius isn't the best player in the world, you can argue with a wall. I'm happy that Madrid didn't go to show support to Vinicius Jr. because whether or not they didn't go to not be embarrassed, whether or not they didn't go because they do think there was a racial component to this, ultimately they are showing solidarity to their best player on their team and their superstar who they want to keep around for a long time, which I think is more important than the Ballon d'Or. And for me, I would be happy if they never went back. If Madrid never went, no matter how many awards we win. If they had to keep, anytime a Madrid player wins the Ballon d'Or, they just have to give it to some stand-in representative that'll mail it in, because I don't really care. I don't have time to care. You know, there are a lot of people have been robbed. International tournaments matter until they don't. I mean, if international tournaments matter, how did Messi win so many Ballon d'Ors? I don't know if people remember, because everybody on Twitter is apparently 12. But before the Copa America in like 2019, Messi had never won an international tournament with Argentina. Yeah. And never particularly had like a really great tournament.
Yeah.
Mario Götze fucking beat him in the finals. Like,
where'd he go?
Yeah, fucking. So, yeah, I don't know. I could go on forever. It really is.
No, we could.
It really is just frustrating that a player that didn't make the UEFA Champions League Team of the Year, that wasn't Manchester City's Player of the Year, somehow is the most important player on the planet.
Yeah, make it make sense. I'm going to try and wrap this up. For people who don't know him, I think one journalist and writer that I like on ESPN FC is Gab Marcotti, and I firmly have the same opinion with him that I don't really care about the Ballon d'Or at all, and neither does he. And he has an article right now up, and he says the Ballon d'Or drama is only as important as we make it. So I really think it's just not important to really talk about it anymore. And again, I 100% agree with you. Just don't go again. Why bother even going? I'm just going to read a small excerpt from his article. He says, "These are multimillionaire superstars at the top of their game who have won some of the most important trophies in soccer. Why the need for approval from 100 journalists from 100 countries, the vast majority of whom they'll never meet? A bit like U.S. Supreme Court justices, Ballon d'Or voters are appointed by one man, France Football's editor-in-chief, and serve until they die or retire. Unlike U.S. Supreme Court justices, they don't have to go through congressional approval."
Yeah, I mean,
FIFA had a chance to give an award. I don't want to get into race too much, but FIFA had a chance to give an award and make their poster boy, so-called, for their sport a person of color who stands up against racism and stands up against absolutely horrible things being said to people who look like him. And I'm not sure if he would have said something like that in his speech, but I think it's a statement to fans and to the sport to say, this is our best player. And you know what? We are going to empower him. Yep. But you decided to give it to a guy.
Yeah. And you know what? To put even more fuel to the fire of it being a low-key like embarrassment ritual, if you want to use those words or whatever, you know who's going to present the award, or who did present the award to the Ballon d'Or winner this year? George Weah, the last black man to win it. So if that doesn't tell you that on some level this was made to seem like it would be a crowning moment for Vinicius Jr. to be the next black athlete to win it, I really don't know. Because if it's going to go to Rodri, why not be one of the last Spanish players to win it? Like, or, you know, just like a guy that he's close with. Like, you know what I mean? So it's all very, very silly. And I think that article sums it up best. Do I care about the opinions of 100 journalists who may or may not watch football with their eyes or whatever? Or do I care about people like Clarence Seedorf or Karim Benzema or the multitude of other stars, George Weah himself, who have said Vinicius is the best player on the planet and deserve to win that award? I know who I believe, and it's not Twitter user at Rodri is the GOAT 95. Like,
with a Barcelona flag.
Yeah, with a Barcelona. It's like, do you know what team you cheer for? Crazy.
And a Messi banner on top.
Yeah.
Oh,
whatever, man.
Well, we went a little bit over an hour. We talked about a lot of things. We promise not to be as mopey and as mad on the next episodes. We're not going to focus so much on Real Madrid. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, the next episode will be Prem heavy for sure.
Yeah, we'll go Prem heavy. We told you Ten Hag's not making it, and we're going to talk about that bald fraud being sent back to Netherlands. You know, we hope you enjoy your vacation there. But that's basically all we have to say on this one.
Another Ruben getting the job, maybe.
Oh yes, Ruben Amorim. Is he another? I mean, I'm hearing like he's good. I'm also hearing he's just another like Portuguese Ten Hag. I don't know. It's really funny. There's a lot we're gonna talk about. Yeah, there's a lot.
Can't wait. Yeah, this was not a fun episode, but cathartic.
Yeah, I think we needed this. We needed to vent. We hope you listened. We hope you enjoyed. We know Real Madrid's probably fans will not likely listen. Again, we won't be as mad as Mopey on the next one. Like, subscribe, give us your comments. Ruben, anything else you have to say?
No, thank you so much for listening. We'll try to be more consistent, as Cheyenne said, and next one will be a lot more fun and banter.
Cheers, friends. We'll see you next time.